my first encounter with a demon. So I don't know, do you call that encounters of a fourth kind or a fifth kind, because you've got encounters of a third kind? You've got all kinds of encounters which involves aliens, but there is no real feedback on encounters with demons. Now, many years ago, one evening at a house in Durban, I had a film crew arrive to come and interview us on a project we were busy with in terms of education. It was about reading, because we at that stage identified the single biggest problem in the world, why the world is the way it is, to be a lack of reading skills. So the average human have such a lack of vocabulary that their total self-definition is defined by their vocabulary, and they cannot read anything with comprehension outside the realm and the range of their vocabulary, which is still existent today. That's why you have so many possessed people. They are possessed by their words. They are the living words that they have made their only existence. Anyway, so I was explaining on camera, so the way it was done, these guys like to do live TV. They like to do this, what do we call it? The TV where you have nowadays all over, people like it so much, real TV kind of thing. So that's what happened. We were sitting there, we had 2 cameras, 3 cameras sometimes running, and I was explaining the whole point about vocabulary, reading, and how that was affecting man, and also the context of self-forgiveness within the whole process to release yourself from the control the vocabulary have over your vocation and who you are, so you can have a little vacation and vacate the possessive nature that is screwing up the world and the animals and the plants. And while I was doing this, suddenly one of the cameramen, which was approximately 21, 22 years old, walked onto the set we were busy with and started challenging me about forgiveness and why do I now regard forgiveness as so important, while obviously in the world it doesn't seem to play any significant role. And I noticed that the anger that was in the person's life was extensive, because he was shaking. I took his hand and said to him, just say after me, I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to be so angry at life. And I said, and he tried to speak, but he couldn't speak. He would open his mouth, he was shaking, but couldn't speak. And I kept on doing that, pulling him, saying, come on, just, it's such a big thing to forgive yourself. Just forgive yourself. But he couldn't get himself to forgive himself. And then eventually, suddenly the whole body started shaking, the eyes popped backwards, became white, and the hands turned into claws, and it was like on the verge of a form of I was looking at this as a form of attack, like you get these epileptic fits kind of thing. And I just kept on holding him and said, forgive, 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 forgive. And in the meantime, obviously, the cameras were rolling. I have made several attempts to get this footage from the people, because they have looked at it and called it what they have captured on film as real evil. And it was in the young man's life. He was completely possessed, but we haven't yet been able to get this footage from the people, because they're also a company that went under. Money determines so much in this world. Anyway, eventually he managed to get the words out, "I forgive myself," and in that moment whatever was possessing him left, and I was watching this leave, and then a very sad realization came across me that this thing, whatever was inside the being, was in fact now looking for another host. I have driven it from its host, which was this young man, and now it's going to find another host, whether it be, this thing is driving as well, whether it be a child, someone unexpectedly, innocently walking in their lives is going to get an unexpected visitor, and they're not even going to know it happens until it's been well established over time and it takes complete possession of the being. So I decided that evening, I obviously had a discussion with the person afterwards, what they experienced in terms of their consciousness. They were not aware of their possession. They experienced only a darkness coming over them, a blackness, and they lost consciousness, and this thing took over. Now that theme will repeat itself many times, that most people cannot deal with a demon possession. They in fact lose consciousness when the demon takes over. So I then made a decision that unless and until I understand how this functions, I will not again drive a demon out of somebody. Because in fact, when you exorcise the demon, you are not solving the problem. You're creating a new problem, one that you have no control over, and the demon will go and take over somebody else's life. And in most cases, they will start with a child. Because if a child is being abused, or there is violence in the home, or the parents are using emotional control, it opens up the child for demon possession. And then the demon can find a new host, grow up with the child, and then one day, 20 years later, take over the child's life. And as the demon said to me many times, fuck with God's creation because of God's evil nature. Watch out what you do. But for more news and understanding of the demons of this world and the future that the demons bring to this world as we approach 2020, many years to come, join us at demonology.co.za. There is a forum where you can share your story, and we will assist you in facing your demons. Till next time. Adding to my first demon encounter, up to that evening, obviously, I was convinced, due to the almightiness of God, that demons did not in fact exist, and that it was purely just there to assist. It wasn't in fact an entity with its own consciousness that could make decisions to move between people, for instance, that it could make decisions just as a human. So up to that evening I was convinced that Christianity and the Bible were purely just using it as a marketing tool to get more people to drink the blood of Jesus. Obviously, later on I became also quite clearly convinced that the blood of Jesus was just as demonic as being demonically possessed by a demon that take over your decision making, because as Christians demonstrate so clearly, they also become equally demon possessed once they give their life to Jesus, and the Jesus demon moves in and take over all decision making, and the being itself becomes unconscious, which is another story we will explore, because it's just from that moment on I explored and investigated demons and demon possession. I had many encounters from many perspectives. It's quite an interesting world. Explore it with us. You may be surprised what you're going to find.